Hey guys, so today we're going to talk about the second reading strategy that you're going to be using in The Great Gatsby. Last week we did again and again. So you're going to want to open your notes or your digital notebook here to wherever you're keeping notes on the reading strategies and start a spot for a second strategy. This second one is called Contrasts and Contradictions. It's a little bit more complicated than the first one, but it's going to come up in the book pretty clearly here. So I'm going to give you a minute to get your notes set up and then we'll start. We use contrast and contradictions when a character says or does something that is the opposite of what he or she has been saying all along in the story. So if a character's behavior suddenly changes and it's different from what we've come to expect, that should be a big flag for us, a big signpost that like this is an important moment that we should probably stop and ask some questions about and pay attention to. It might help us get to know them better. It might help us see a way that they're changing. It might help us see a key scene. The second way we can use contrast and contradictions is when there's a sharp difference between what we expect to happen and what we observe actually happening. So it doesn't always have to be about a character changing the way they act. Sometimes it can just be about our own expectations being subverted. The common thread here is that when it's something different than what we expect. Lastly, we're also going to try to apply this reading strategy when we see the character experience something that they don't expect. If something happens that really shocks them, that surprises them, that changes what they sort of had in mind, that can be a good moment for contrasts and contradictions. Maybe it's disappointment, maybe it's pleasant surprise, maybe it's somebody acting in a way that they'd stereotype them to be different than the way they actually behave. Cool. So when we're using contrasts and contradictions, it encourages us to think about or discuss characters first and foremost, right? So this is a really good one for characterization because it often shows us people's motivations. It shows us how they're changing or growing. It can also help us better understand theme because we can see how people change across time. And sometimes that gives us really good ideas of what big takeaways we're supposed to have from the story. Anytime you think something along the lines of, I wasn't expecting that, where did that come from? Why did that happen? Or that came out of the blue? These are really good moments to use contrast and contradictions. Okay, so just like last time when we practiced again and again with the clips from The Lion King, this time we're going to practice applying contrasts and contradictions to a clip from The Blind Side. So again, since I'm recording my screen here, just playing the video inside of this video, it won't work because the audio will cut out. So what I'm going to do again is I'm going to put the link to this clip from The Blind Side, in the description to this YouTube video. Pause my video now, go ahead and watch that clip, and I want you to tell me, how are your expectations subverted in this video clip? What happens that you are not expecting? And then, as always, how is it helping us see things about the characters, their motivations, the situations, or the themes? Okay, go ahead and pause me now, watch the clip from The Blind Side. Ooh. Okay, so hopefully you saw a couple of things here. There's a lot of things in that clip that happen in ways that we don't expect. There's a lot of good options for how you might have responded. The first thing we don't expect is that the football player is not a big, aggressive dude naturally. We sort of expect that he might be because he's by far the biggest, strongest guy in the field. But then he's sort of a gentle tackler. He doesn't really know what he's doing, right? That subverts our expectations. It makes us think about his background, about what we assume about big, strong looking people. And helps us think that maybe the theme has something to do with growth or change or the way that we judge people. Another thing that happens that we don't expect is that the woman in the scene marches out onto the football field and does a better job of coaching than the coach does. And there's several reasons that that's surprising to us. One is the way that she's dressed, right? She's got her hair done. She's wearing a skirt and heels. We don't expect her to march out onto a football field. That once again challenges our expectations on her character, right? We learn, oh man, maybe looks aren't everything. Maybe there's more to people than meets the eye. Maybe this is a tough, insightful person, even if her appearance doesn't make us initially think that. It helps us, again, think about themes of like people not being what you think they are. There's more to people than meets the eye. Don't judge a book by its cover. That sort of thing is what we're looking for here. Then the fact that after her advice, the football player has a lot more success That helps us really cement this theme, right? That maybe, love is the most important, like, motivator, right? This conversation that she has with her adopted son is all about how he needs to be protecting people, right? And she's got to tap into that instinct that he has. So we've got suddenly themes that have to do with family or connection as well. We might not know exactly what the text is saying about those things yet, since we haven't finished the film, but we know that that's what they have to do with. Okay, so hopefully you've got this jotted down in your notes. As we read through Gatsby in chapter 2 especially, but as always, moving forward through the rest of the book, I want you to look for moments where characters are either acting differently than they've been acting, where there's a sharp contrast between what you expect and what happens, or where a character has a sharp contrast between what they expect and what happens. And I want you to ask yourself how it's helping you get to know characters better, how it's helping you see what big thematic topics in the novel might be. When you read chapter 2, you'll see this in the daily directions. I expect you to complete a journal entry where you use again and again and contrast and contradictions. So your journal entry for chapter 2 should pull out and analyze 2 passages using each reading strategy for a different passage. Okay, cool. Bye-bye.